Hi there, I'm Mike, and to celebrate May the 4th, what I have for you today is my top 10 original trilogy figures I feel are necessary for any Black Series collector. My original plan for this list was to make an all-encompassing entire line list, but I found that to be way too hard, and I just decided to start with my favorite trilogy, the original trilogy. I became a die-hard Star Wars fan during the darkest time for Star Wars, the mid-90s. All we had was the trilogy on VHS or Laserdisc if you had a rich friend, some computer games, and a bunch of expanded universe books that varied wildly in quality. I plan to do lists like this for the prequel trilogy, sequel trilogy, and then one for kind of everything else. So let me know if you want to see that down in the comments. Making lists can be hard because there are a lot of varying opinions, and the line started 9 years ago and has a few hundred figures. So narrowing it down to 10, even just the original trilogy, is tough. And something I didn't want was to have 4 versions of the same character in 4 different spots. There are a lot of Luke Skywalkers, so I forced myself to have just 1 slot per character. Also, this list order is a mixture of how much I like the character versus how much I recommend the toy. So you may be surprised by the order that some characters are in, but all of these are solid figures. And it should go without saying that this list only encompasses figures that have been released or announced as of today, May 3rd, 2022. Starting off my list with the big bad of the original trilogy and prequel trilogy and I guess the sequel trilogy, Emperor Palpatine. Papa Palps here has had a couple of releases in the Black Series line. If you're looking to get one, the easiest one to get right now is the upcoming Archive release, which takes the original release from 2014, that was awful, and changes its plastic skirt up for the cloth one and updates the terrible face with digital face printing. But he still only comes with that darn cane. Normally, I would choose the Amazon exclusive from 2019 that came with alternate heads, lightning hands, and his chair. I mean, realistically, that is my choice. But it goes for a pretty penny on the aftermarket. So if you can't swing that, the Archive one is fine, but just don't get that Phase 2 Blue Line version. Not unless you get it for less than the price of the Archive version. It's just not good. Moving down to number 9, we have a crazy old wizard. Ben Kenobi is a core character from the original trilogy. At the time of its creation, he was somewhat shrouded in mystery. He was an old man with connections to Luke's dad, a mysterious desert hermit just looking for some bushels of love. The best version of this character is hands down from the PulseCon exclusive Cantina Showdown set from 2021 because it has the better digital face printing. But there are alternatives to fighting. Honestly, any version of this figure is nice. Whether it's the original release from 2016, the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive with the LEIA hologram table, or the 2017 carded 40th anniversary A New Hope release without the digital face printing. These are all good. The face has actually always looked pretty decent. Just be wary of the Kenner colored variant from Amazon. The colors are not movie accurate, and he has a vinyl cape. Coming in at number 9 is Han Solo's faithful companion. CHEWBACCA is an absolute must for any collection, but in my opinion, there hasn't really been a version of Chewie that I've been 100% happy with, which is why he's so low on my list despite being my favorite OT character. The one I can recommend though is the 40th anniversary Empire Strikes Back Chewie. This is the best looking Chewie to date, and he comes with his bowcaster. I mention that because alternatively, this same figure was released first in a 2-pack with C-3PO that was Amazon exclusive. And as great as that is, he did not come with a bowcaster. And a Chewie without one is, well, it's hardly a Chewie at all. However, if, like me, you chose to go that route, you get the next one in my list, the 8.5 or 7.5. Either way, it's kind of cheating, but I don't care. It's my list. This is the only original trilogy C-3PO that is decent in the line. C-3PO is a good character to get, but because this is the only one worth getting, and yes, I'm throwing shade at the original Walgreens and the upcoming Archive release, which are the same release, you can tell if it's an original trilogy 3PO because of the silver leg. I didn't really feel comfortable putting him officially on the list, so this is an extension of the Chewbacca listing. The reason for that mostly comes down to deco and articulation. This 3PO has the forearm body, so he has the elbow articulation, which for me is a big deal. He also comes apart, which is just something C-3PO should do. He even does it in the Lego game. Back to the list proper, we're getting suave with number 7. A later addition to the core team, Lando Calrissian is the cool, smooth-talking scoundrel with a heart of gold. Sort of. There have been 3 major Landos in the line, and if you want only one on your shelves, it's really hard not to recommend the original Bespin version from Empire. However, right now, it's much easier to get General Lando from Return of the Jedi. Just go literally into any store that sells Black Series and you're bound to find a few on the shelves, which is a pity because it's legitimately a good figure with a great likeness. I definitely didn't put this on the list just to try to influence newer collectors into clearing off the shelves. Sure, he's not perfect. He only comes with a blaster that you're gonna put in his rad chest holster like some kind of hardened detective. And I like the soft goods cape over the molded plastic of the Bespin version. At number 6, Star Wars is a space fantasy, wouldn't be anywhere without its princess. With all of the Leias we've had in the line, it's tough to choose just one, but our princess must be represented. Since the first Slave Leia in 2013, she has run the gamut from some of the worst figures in the line to some of the best. And I think Hasbro's best offering of her is the Hoth Leia. I may be a little biased because Empire is my favorite Star Wars movie, but I also think this is a good look for her. She's got comfy clothes, sensible shoes, and a sensible hairstyle for leading the rebellion. This Leia has an incredible, spot-on likeness to the late Carrie Fisher and absolutely deserves to be on your shelf. A runner-up for this is the Endor version or the Target-exclusive Bespin Escape version, but Hoth will always have my heart until Hasbro gives us the Bespin gown version. And then moving into the top 5 of the list, every collection also needs a Han Solo. I don't even really feel the need to explain why. Just like Leia, there have been some good Hans and some less than good Hans. Unlike Leia though, I'm sort of recommending the opposite of her. The Endor Han is probably the best Han to date in terms of likeness. Plus, if you take his camo duster off, he's sort of just the A New Hope Han, but with the wrong colored pants. Which is fine with me because I'm colorblind anyway. Alternatively, if you prefer, the Bespin Han from Empire is a good option, and I had a tough time not putting him on the list, but in the end, I feel like the Endor version just edges out Bespin in terms of likeness and accessories. Also, they're mostly the same body, since Bespin Han was the base for Endor Han. At number 4, you might be noticing that so far my list is very protagonist heavy, so it's past time to add another bad guy in the mix, and it's hard to do better than Boba Fett. While he may have turned out to not be truly evil, just in the employ of an evil person or organization, if you grew up with the original trilogy as your only Star Wars like me, it's hard not to put Boba Fett firmly in the bad guy camp. Of all the Fetts to be released in the Black Series, most are just repaints of the 2013 Boba Fett from Empire Strikes Back, and that is a figure I feel wasn't all that great when he came out, and has only aged worse as time has gone on. The 2021 updated Boba Fett from Return of the Jedi absolutely scratches that itch if you want a good modern Fett on your shelves with great displayability. And my spell checker says that displayability is not a word, but it is because I wrote it. From just standing there to being in a fun action pose, it's really hard for me not to like this figure. I do wish he came with a cloth cape, and I did have to fix his helmet when I got him, but it ended up not really being an issue, and I love him. Every collection needs a Fett, or 500 plus if you're Dan Larson. Rolling on with the bad guy train, number 3 is Jabba's preferred henchman. The Gamorrean Guard is one of the absolute best figures Hasbro has ever made. The paint, the sculpt, and the furry underwear. This is a classic, iconic 1983 Pigman Gamorrean Guard, not the sexy, thick boy of the Boba Fett show. Which honestly I don't mind, but I vastly prefer the old to the new. This is a 2018 release, and it was originally available through Target as an exclusive, and it was a deluxe figure before deluxe figures were a thing. Thankfully, this shouldn't be too hard to get, as it was recently re-released as a fan channel exclusive for people who missed out. Buy one, buy three. He's got enough weapons for some alternate ways to display him, and he looks great on the shelf. At the number 2 spot, you may have been wondering about the absence of Luke Skywalker on my list. So now we come to Luke Skywalker on my list. Inarguably, the main character of the original trilogy within the context of the original trilogy is Luke Skywalker. The first character released in the Black Series line in 2013 was Luke Skywalker, and there have been many, many, many Lukes released since then. So how do you choose just one? Do you choose an iconic look despite the fact that it might not be a good toy? Or do you choose the best toy despite the fact that it might not be an iconic look? Or do you find something in the middle? Well, you find something in the middle is what I did. So here we have Dagobah Luke. Maybe not the most iconic look for him, but it is an iconic look nonetheless. But it also happens to be easily the best release of the character in the entire line. Not only does it actually look like Mark Hamill, a feat Hasbro has historically struggled with since the beginning of time itself, he's also sporting new sculpting and articulation techniques that allow him to look good no matter what pose you get him in. He was released in the 40th anniversary Empire Strikes Back line back in 2020, but if you do decide to get it, I highly recommend going all in and getting the deluxe version. Not only does he come with the same blaster and the same lightsaber, he also comes with alternate hands for various force poses and a backpack for carrying Yoda around. And that brings us to Yoda. Another sort of not quite recommendation. He's not really on the list, but he is on the list if you buy this version. I mean, he comes with the figure, so if you buy it, he comes with it. You can't separate them unless you buy it. Anyways, this is easily the best Yoda released in the line as well. The original one released in 2014 just wasn't good. He was too big and he just wasn't good. This video isn't long enough for me to go into it. This is a completely new mold, perfectly in scale with Luke and the rest of the line, and he also comes with an alternate head with his eyes closed, which is just kind of neat. If you want a Yoda for your collection, this is the one to get. The older one, like I said, it wasn't good. Before we move on to number 1, you may have noticed that we're missing some major characters. Obviously, there's only 10 spots, and a lot of this comes down to taste, but I tried to focus on the core characters I think every collection should have. But there are tons of great smaller blink and you'll miss them characters like Bosk, Dengar, or Greedo. Also fun army builders like the Tusken Raiders that came with a ton of fun accessories, but they couldn't quite make my list. You also might be noticing a few big characters missing, notably R2-D2, one of the most important characters in all of Star Wars, regardless of the trilogy. And I just feel like Hasbro hasn't really done him justice. Not enough to put on this list anyway, and I really hope that one day Hasbro revisits the character with something more in scale and better. Also, Stormtroopers. They're missing from this list because the new good mold that we got is actually modeled after the appearance in The Mandalorian. And the original molds, based on the original trilogy, haven't aged well enough for me to recommend them. But enough of what's not on the list. That brings us to the last spot. Number 1 has got to be Darth Vader. It was always Vader. Who is more iconic than Darth Vader? That imposing silhouette is unmistakable, one of the most tragic characters and iconic villains ever to grace the screen. Hasbro has given us a few Vaders in the line, but the answer to this one is clear and easy. The Empire Strikes Back version is the definitive version of Darth Vader. While Hasbro reused the legs of the A New Hope release, they did a new head, chest, and arms to give us butterfly shoulders. I've been asked if I could only keep one Black Series figure from my collection, what would it be? That's a tough question to answer, but this figure would be an absolute frontrunner for that list. I do wish he came with more, some alternate hands, maybe some kind of force effect, but even without those, this figure is one of the finest that Hasbro has to offer, by far. And that's it for my list. Let me know what you think. Did you like my list? What are your top 10 lists? Again, this is only original trilogy. I will do one on prequel trilogy and others. I'd also love to take a moment and thank these people here for supporting me on Patreon at a Black Series level or higher. If you'd like to support the channel, you can head over there, or you can just like, share, and subscribe. That goes a long way and it's free to do. But for that, thank you for watching. Thank you for getting this far. May the Force be with you. I'll see you later. Bye.